All right, good afternoon, everybody. This is Jared Palmgren, host of the Chasing the Natty College Fantasy Football podcast. And today I'm going to bring you guys just a little special video. This will be a YouTube exclusive video. And to explain what's going on here, this year, in order to try to kind of expand college fantasy football, I came up with the idea of what I'm calling Redshirt Leagues. And these are going to be leagues going forward into next year and years afterwards. They're going to be exclusively for first-year college fantasy football players. It's a great way for people to kind of dip their toes into this fantasy sport. That way you're not going up against people who've been doing it for years. You got a whole crop of people with ranging experiences in the fantasy community. As you'll kind of see here, we have people who are Devy people who are trying just straight up college fantasy for the first time. We have a couple of C2C guys who are trying college fantasy for the first time. We have some big college football fans who have not really done a ton of fantasy in the past, who just want to get involved in the fantasy side of sports just with a sport that they love, like college football, like me. Like, this is how I got into fantasy, was college fantasy, believe it or not. So I very much kind of understand that aspect of the whole thing. We got some people who've done NFL fantasy, plenty of, and again, this is just wide range of experiences from everything but college fantasy. So they are coming in for the first time, just trying out a true college fantasy league for the first time. This is a redraft league. The roster for this league is 2 QB, 2 running back, 3 wide receiver, 1 tight end, and 2 flex, along with, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 bench spots, 1 kicker, and 1 DST. So this is all. This is trying to get all different kinds of players involved. The kickers, defenses are a part of this league, so people can so these guys can understand whether or not they like that aspect or not. The league is half PPR, so it's kind of the happy middle ground between those of us who don't like PPR, like myself, and then people who do like PPR. Again, half PPR is that perfect in between, so I figured that would make everybody happy here. Trying to think anything else that I need to explain about this league. It's a 12-man league, so I try to stay as vanilla as possible with this league in terms of the rules and everything. So there's no bonuses for like hitting a certain yardage or anything like that. Nothing crazy like that. Rules are relatively kept vanilla. So yeah, without further ado, I will just kind of do some laundry list items here. Please make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the videos. Make sure you comment down below what your thoughts are on any of our videos, whether it be our weekly recaps that we release on Mondays at 11, or it'll be our weekly previews, which release on Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Whether it's this video, we love hearing back from you guys. Please make sure you follow myself on Twitter at CFF_Jared. You can follow my co-host, who is not here right now, but at Xavier Hood, who is at CFF_Xavier. So yeah, with all that kind of stuff out of the way, let's get it. We have finished the draft, and so what I'm going to do today here is I'm going to go through each of these teams. This is something specifically requested by some of the guys in the league, that I go through each of these teams. And as somebody who's played several years of college fantasy at this point, they want to hear my thoughts on how they did. And I'll go ahead and say right now, these guys for the most part did an excellent job, especially for the first time drafting in a league like this. I don't think I gave anybody under a B. I gave everybody a grade. I don't think I gave anybody under a B except for one person, and you'll see pretty quickly why I graded them the way they did. But I got plenty of advice to give them going forward into this league. So without further ado, let's go ahead and move on to our first team that we got here. So this first team is being coached by Aaron Nyhart. Aaron's a great guy. Again, these are all, I'm going to say that about all of these guys. These guys are all great. They were all extremely nice. We had a good time in the chat room and everything. Nobody was like hyping on each other or anything. Everybody kind of knows that everybody's a little bit out of their league with this. So nobody was, again, it's the exact experience I wanted for these guys. I wanted a somewhat judgment-free zone so people can kind of play around, see what works, what doesn't work for them and everything. You'll see with some of these teams, maybe made a first-year mistake. I'll point those kind of things out here. Anyway, I keep rambling. Let's just get on with this. Aaron Nyhart. So a couple of thoughts. I have my notes here, so I don't get off too off track here. So Aaron Nyhart. First of all, first thing I want to note with this team, this quarterback group is great. Sam Howell, first round, probably would have gone a little bit earlier than I would have done. But regardless, with him and CJ Stroud, who you took, I'm just going to talk to everybody listening to the podcast. Do you mind if I act like I'm talking to Taylor? Because or not Taylor, my goodness. Do you mind if I just act like I'm talking to Aaron? Is that okay with everybody? I'm going to say it's okay with everybody. So Aaron, let's talk about your team here. Again, quarterbacks are great. Sam Howell, a little bit earlier than I was expecting. CJ Stroud, you're pretty locked up there at quarterback for the entire year. But even if for some reason one of those guys doesn't work out, which I would be shocked if either of those two doesn't work out on your bye weeks, Jaden Daniels and Michael Penix Jr. are two great rushing QBs with upside that I think will absolutely be plug and play guys who can easily take over for you if you need them to. The big thing that I wanted to mention with this team is all your running backs. Your running backs are what I would all consider dangerous prospects. So Kevin Marks, coming off a Buffalo running back, like Buffalo running backs in the past couple of years have been fantasy gold mines. They've been fantastic. Jared Patterson was an absolute steal last year. The problem with it is head coach Lance Leopold off to Kansas. Along with that, six offensive linemen. I believe 4 starters have left Buffalo this past offseason. A lot of them followed Lance Leopold to Kansas. So you're looking at a completely rebuilt offensive line, new head coach. I'm not sure that we're going to be seeing this exact same system. And so while Kevin Marks was popping off almost 6-7 yards a carry last year, I don't think that happens again. And I'm not entirely sure that he's going to get the volume that we have seen with Buffalo running backs in the past. But could easily be very wrong there. They could just pick up right where they left off last year. The MAC is not exactly a hard conference. So even if you don't have the best offensive line in the world, it's not like you're going up against formidable defensive lines. So I think he's still going to get, you're going to be happy with Marks, but I don't think he's going to be quite worth the second round pick that you used on him here. Chris Olave, no. Don't get off track here. We're going to stick with the running backs. So running backs, Cameron Peoples, another one I think is kind of a dangerous one, is somebody I've been kind of avoiding because I've been burned by Appalachian State running backs recently. They, for some reason, just always change just throughout the year, like constantly, or like you never know who's going to have a bad week, who's going to have a good week in that RB room. And in addition, the Appalachian State depth chart was just released today. And Cameron Peoples was listed as RB1. However, Nate Knoll was listed as an OR. So he's also considered an RB1 there. And so I'm not entirely sure that Cameron Peoples locked up this running back room like we thought he did at the end of last year. So again, could be wrong. He could still be that primary back there. Depth charts can be deceiving sometimes. However, I do think he is a little bit more dangerous, and you should absolutely be careful. Like, you should absolutely be keeping an eye on Nate Knoll and how these carries are being split up at Appalachian State. Your other running back, Kevin Harris. This guy was a monster last year. Like, nobody saw this one coming. Everybody was thinking it's Zaquan J. Wright. Marshawn Lloyd was the big name until he got hurt. But now we're here. Marshawn Lloyd is the name coming up. And four-star running back, high four-star running back, going out to South Carolina. And Kevin Harris got injured like probably a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And since then has very much been in question as to whether or not he'll be playing in that opener. If he misses that opener and Marshawn Lloyd comes in and takes over as that RB1, Kevin Harris's value drops down the drain very, very quickly. Not that he can't earn his values back, but even still, he's not going to be that clear workhorse running back that we were seeing last year. So again, another kind of dangerous prospect there. Brian Robinson Jr., I've kind of talked about the whole Alabama running back room on the show before. I do think Brian Robinson still is likely to be that RB1 going into Bama this upcoming year. However, it's more likely that he won't be a workhorse back, and so thus you're not going to be getting the value out of an Alabama running back as much as you want to. So that's kind of where I'm at with all these running backs you've gotten. Again, to me, just a lot of dangerous ones. Kobe Lewis, unfortunately injured for the foreseeable future. And that's not entirely your fault. You drafted him before the news came out that he was injured, so that was just a unfortunately timed pick. And yeah, so you're gonna need to find somebody off the waiver wire there. At the end of all this, by the way, I am going to go through a list of people on the waiver wire who I think everybody here in this league should be considering looking at if they feel like their position, a certain position, is lacking. Anyway, and a couple other things. We'll go to receivers. Your best receiver is Olave. I mean, that's clear. You picked them in the 3rd round. Other than that, Ty Freifogel, Anaya Smith, I think those are both solid options. And you picked up some high upside guys near the end. EJ Williams, Gunnar Romney, I think are fine. Eric Gilbert is somebody you need to drop immediately because I don't think he's coming back to Georgia anytime soon. And even if he does, he's going to be in rotation with several different people at the positions that he's playing at Georgia. So I recommend dropping him as soon as possible. And also another thing here is like you have 3 tight ends. You don't need 3 tight ends. Find out which like Isaiah Likely and Isaac Rex I think are more than capable for you for this upcoming year. Yes, I'm making sure that they don't have the same bye week. Yeah, and look, I'm looking at this. Jeremy Ruckert has the same bye week as Isaiah Likely, so likely you can just you can just drop Jeremy Ruckert, and I think you'll be perfectly fine. And just pick somebody else up. That can be a running back. I would probably go running back. And again, there's a couple of names here that I think you could pick up that'll help solidify this running back room. Ches Malusi just got named the RB1 at Wisconsin, so I'm not sure how that backfield plays out. However, I think he's a higher upside than Jeremy Ruckert or something like that. Christian Beal Smith, Charles Williams, both high volume guys I think you could pick up. So I'd say, with all this being said, overall, I will give your team a just solid B. I'm going to go with a B here. Yep, there it is. I got it up on the screen. So again, well done. Perfectly, I'd say for first timer, you did perfectly average draft, and I think you can absolutely work with this team in order to get further into the season. All right, so we'll move on to the next team here, and sorry about the cut there. I had to realize that my throat was going to get extremely dry very quickly, so I figured I'd just go ahead and grab myself a full tub of water so I can make sure I can get through the rest of this without, coughing up a lung. So we'll talk about exactly here. This is a friend of mine on Twitter, another Georgia fan. He expressed interest in joining a college fantasy league this year, and I was like, hey, we got this whole league for first timers if you want to join, and he signed up very quickly. So we'll go through his team real quick. We'll start with the QBs. Goes Bryce Young, 1st round. Now I know among more like CFF gurus and everything, like you would consider maybe Bryce Young in the 1st round a bit of a reach, but honestly, nobody's going to really fault you for going the Bama quarterback in the very 1st round, especially when it's solidified, unlike last year where everybody was convinced that Bryce Young was going to take over for Mac Jones. Nobody's going to fault you for taking Bama quarterback in the 1st round, so I'm not going to fault them too much there. Isaiah Spiller was a great running back to grab on the way back in the 2nd round. 3rd round is where I started to kind of raise my eyebrow a little bit. I love Jermaine Burton. I do think he'll be Georgia's first 1,000-yard wide receiver. But I would not have ever picked him in the 3rd round. So I think this is where the Georgia bias might have shown just a little bit. And then if you're watching this on YouTube, you can already tell like where this is going to go very quickly. In the 4th round, picks up John Mechie. And 5th round picks up Zay Flowers, solidifies that wide receiver room. I actually think this is a pretty good wide receiver room, even with the Jermaine Burton reach in the 3rd round. Jaleel Billingsley, that's a big oof because now, granted, again, when he made this pick, we hadn't heard about all the drama going on with him and Nick Saban. So that's a unfortunate 6th round pick that got burned. Going to Georgia DST in the 7th round again. This is where if I'm going to spoil this is the one draft that I've given a C. And again, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see why. Exactly. I know you're a Georgia fan. I'm a Georgia fan too. You have way too much Georgia on this team. And honestly, you have just way too many, you have too many people from the same teams over and over again. Because you got Weidermeyer from Texas A&M. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 guys from Alabama on here. So you only got a couple teams represented in your entire team, and that's just not a good way to run a fantasy team. If you're trying to, like, you want to try to diversify what players you have on your team, so that when when an offense has a bad day, it doesn't screw up your entire fantasy team for that day. And in addition, you don't want to be sitting there playing with Georgia being like, all right, so who's gonna get the targets this week? Is Kendall Milton gonna get the carries over Zamir White and James Cook? Like, you don't want to do that to yourself. So I would highly recommend that you diversify who you have on your team in terms of the teams represented. And yeah, I think you need to hit the waiver wire very, very quickly. And some of the guys I'd say I would recommend you just dropping. I mean, Julio Billingsley, of course, like now third at tight end on the depth chart at Bama, like oof. I see no problem with keeping guys around like James Cook, because I think that's a good high. Like, again, he's going to get plenty of receiving work as well as running back work, so I see no problem there. Justin Robinson, again, if this is best ball, I'd say yes, but I think you can get rid of him. Jameson Williams is actually going to make you a better pick than I think we would have thought a week ago, because now he has a solidified starting role at Bama. Drop Jay Camarda. First of all, you never need a backup kicker in college fantasy, or any fantasy, like football for that matter. Again, those are just some guys like Brock Bowers. Like, again, I know the upside's there, especially without Darnell playing this weekend and everything, but like long term, I don't think he's going to be an answer for this season that you're going to want on your team. So again, there's just a couple guys here I'd say drop. I don't like, there's no problem to me with, having several homer picks, but also, again, like, you just have way too many. And so, like I said, I'm going to give you the grade of C here. This roster definitely needs some work, and I definitely think you need to be working the waiver wire as the season goes on. All right, so we'll go ahead and move on to the next team, and this is from Brandon Cherry. He in the past has definitely done plenty of NFL fantasy. And so this is his first time trying out a college team. Very enthusiastic, was helping me out throughout the entire draft, making sure people were on the clock, making sure people who were on the clock knew that they were on the clock. He was excited about almost every single one of his picks, which is great. I love seeing that enthusiasm. So let me go through the team that we got set up here. So Brandon, looking at your quarterbacks, we'll start with your quarterbacks. You got Carson Strong in the 4th round. Good value. I would say I do like Carson Strong this upcoming year. I think he's got plenty of weapons to work with. The next quarterback you took was in the 8th round. You took Bailey Zapp out of Western Kentucky. Again, I don't blame you at all. Lots of high upside there. And then the 3rd quarterback you took was Will Rogers in the 14th round. So yeah, I think you got 3 solid quarterbacks there. But here's the problem. Like, if you notice anything about those 3 quarterbacks, all 3 of them are in heavy passing teams, which is good. Don't get me wrong. Like, that's what you want. But the problem is almost none of them have any rushing upside whatsoever. These are guys that are going to be standing in the pocket. And honestly, you need to have at least one great rushing quarterback on your team, in my opinion, especially in college, because colleges there's so many to choose from. You need to have at least one guy on your team that could run you for a touchdown, because again, rushing touchdowns is worth a lot more than passing touchdowns. Rushing yards worth a lot more than passing yards. So I think you need to kind of figure out a quarterback on the waiver wire that you could pick up that has good rushing ability. Like, if I had to name one right now, let's see, Hudson Card out of Texas just got named the starting quarterback at Texas. He's got rushing upside. Anthony Brown at Oregon's got rushing upside. I think either of those 2 guys would help solidify this group just a little bit, because I think you're kind of capping yourself on the upside of your quarterbacks by having just, again, if you're going to have passing quarterbacks, these are the guys to have. Don't get me wrong. But even still, I think you could diversify your roster just a little bit by trying to nab one of those rushing quarterbacks. In addition to that, let's see. For your running backs, you got Bijan Robinson in the 1st round, 7th pick. I think that was great. Eric Gray out of Oklahoma. We'll see how that works out. Again, I'm still not sure how that split is going to be between him and Brooks. Let's see, who else did you have at running back? Rashad White. I think that's great for you. And Yeah, I think you just have a solid group of running backs, especially with Bijan leading the helm there. You did kind of go for some sacks where you could, like Jaden Walley and Will Rogers. You also got Jaquavius Marks. So you're going to try to get value out of that Mississippi State offense every single week, which, again, not a bad offense, especially if that air raid does make that second-year jump that a lot of people are expecting. If it doesn't work out, these guys are very easy cuts, in my opinion. Maybe not Jaden Walley, but Jaquavius Marks, I think, could be an easy cut. Regardless, I'm rambling here. Your wide receivers are great. I do like Calvin Austin, Joshua Downs, and Jaden Walley. I think is a great, solid 3 group of receivers. And you got 2 guys on your bench, or 3 guys on your bench who I think are great kind of upside picks. On the bench. You got Charleston Rainbow, who I do think will be the #1 wide receiver at Miami this upcoming year. Joffrey Brown, who is De'Ami Brown's little brother. I think if that hits, you got a great pick there. In addition, Sky Moore out of Western Michigan. Again, him and Jalen Hall, we're still not sure how those targets are going to be split. However, again, that is going to be an offense that scores a hell of a lot of points. So I think you got a plenty good upside pick there with him. So I think your wide receivers are probably the strongest thing about your team, because I don't think you're going to need to be looking elsewhere, like on the waiver wire or anything, anytime soon. Tight ends, Sean Dykes. Where's the other one? Austin Stogner. I think those are both good tight ends. I don't think you're going to need to worry about that very much. If I had to pick one thing that you might have messed up on here, the Clemson defense going in the 7th round, but that's less you and more of just the Clemson defense has just been going way too early in drafts, in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, they have one of the best defenses coming back this upcoming year, but again, to draft it that high, I just don't think it's worth it, especially with a lot of you got Oregon's defense in the 18th round, and I don't think there's going to be a massive difference between those two, at least when you're, actually, no, I take that back. But even still, you find a plenty serviceable defense enough in these later rounds, and again, we'll see that with other people's rosters. I think maybe reach for there, but again, you have a solid enough roster that I'm not going to complain about it too much. So overall, let's give you a grade, and the grade I'm going to settle with here is I think you did an A-. Again, I think you did a great job overall. Again, you got good quarterbacks. Need to work on some mobility there. I think you can do that. Your wide receivers are all great. You got some good upside picks. Running backs are all solid. Again, maybe a little knock for taking the defense that early, and not the knock for the lack of mobility among quarterbacks. But I think overall, you got yourself a solid team and are very much in the line to win this league if you manage this roster well enough. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next team. And this is going to be a friend from campus Canton. This is Brandon Hay, their resident Devi analyst over there. So let me just put his team up on the board. So Brandon had the 3rd overall pick, got Breece Hall. Well done, sir. I think you got the best running back in the fantasy community this upcoming year. I think Ritter and Haener for your quarterbacks are a great duo. In addition, you got Caleb Ellaby as your backup, so I don't think you have to worry about quarterback at all. Again, just let me look here at the. Oh wait, no, I don't have bye weeks listed here. My bad. But yeah, quarterbacks, I think you're going to be perfectly fine with. Well done there. I think getting Cropper and Haener as a stack is going to have good benefits to you. You took Cropper a little bit early, but again, Cropper's going to be a great receiver this year. I'm not going to knock you too much. You did pick up Cole Turner, who is the consensus #1 tight end in the league consensus tight end 1 in the country this upcoming year by college fantasy analysts. So I think you did a good job there, especially since tight ends did start going off the board a little bit earlier in this league compared to other leagues I've drafted in. I think Cole Turner is like the 3rd or 4th tight end off the board, and I think that was a steal, regardless of what round it was. In addition to other things in your team, there's a couple of things I would say I would knock you a little bit for. Jaden Blue, I just don't think he's a very good pick this year because I don't think that Temple offense is going to be very good. So if you had to cut one person, I think Jaden Blue would be the first person I would go to. I think you took a kicker way too early. So you got him in the 15th round. You took BT Potter out of Clemson. I get it. You want a kicker on a high-scoring offense, but again, kickers are such a crapshoot in college. Like, you just need to pick a guy that you like and just wait till the 20th round to pick him up. If he's not there, he's not there. Just find another guy you like. In addition to that, you got Josh Stearns trying to get a piece of that Western Kentucky offense. I don't blame you. However, I don't think Josh Stearns ends up being a starting wide receiver for them, and I think he's a much better value in best ball. So I think he's another cut that you can easily make if you want to try to grab a better wide receiver off of the waiver wire. Anything else I would mention here? But again, I think overall, done a great job here, solid. Your wide receivers out of Jalen Robinson, Jalen Cropper, and Raheem Jarrett, I think are all good. Jarrett, I'm a little bit hesitant on, but again, you got Nathaniel Dell. You got Nathaniel Dell behind him. I think one of those guys is going to end up working for you, so I'm not going to knock you too much there. So in terms of your overall performance, I'd say you are going to get yourself a nice little B+. I give you a B+, good sir. So well done, Brandon. Again, I think B+ means that you are going to win a lot of fantasy games this upcoming year. And again, you are absolutely still in the running for winning this league overall. So we will go ahead and move on to the 5th team in this league. And while we're changing the graphics, I'm going to take a sip of water real quick. All right. Move on to Devin Kozinski. This is a friend of Brandon Cherry's. He's brought into the league. And we'll go ahead and I'm going to just go through my bullet points here as to where I think we could do better here. And again, solid roster overall, I'd say. DJ Uiagalelei, having him as your first quarterback, I think is fantastic. But the first things I want to note here is, again, too early on a kicker. Even if it is the Alabama kicker and Will Reichert, I get it. But round 16, the value you get there is going to be not much better than the value you're going to get in round 20. So I think just too early on the kicker there. You got Renard Bell and Cam Porter, 2 guys who are out for the season on this roster. So I say get rid of them as quickly as you can and grab some guys who are going to be actually playing this year. Jonathan Mingo, I think, is another one you could possibly cut here. Again, I like the Ole Miss offense, but I think it's going to be just spread around too much, and I just don't think Jonathan Mingo is going to benefit enough from that in order for you to consistently keep him on here as a roster every single week. He can easily be a guy you pick back up if for some reason he does end up getting a large share of targets at Ole Miss. You grab Master Teague in the 8th round. Again, just from everything I've been hearing, Mayan Williams is about to take over that number 1 role at Ohio State. And in addition to that, they're just kind of prepping until Travion Henderson kind of takes over. So it looks like Master Teague's going to be fading week after week, and I just don't see a reason to be keeping him on your roster very often. In terms of your starting lineup, I think you have a great starting lineup. Again, DJ Uiagalelei and Derek King, both perfectly great. Kyron Williams and Jarek Broussard are a good running back duo. Barvin Mims, Garrett Wilson, and Justin Ross, 3 top receivers on 3 great teams. So I see no reason really to knock you too much there. Again, the big thing I notice with all these is, like, all of these guys to me have something that makes me pause just a little bit. So again, I'm not gonna, that's more of a personal thing. So I think overall, objectively, I think you have a very good roster here. But the main things are, again, taking that kicker too early was a big thing. You did wait on tight end, which I thought was smart, and you didn't grab a backup tight end, which I thought was also kind of smart, because I think Josh Wiley's gonna be perfect for you for a good bit. You can stream tight end if you need to, or pick up another one. There's plenty of good options still on the board after you drop Renard Bell or Cam Porter. But again, the fact that you have those guys on your roster is going to ding you a little bit here. So I think an overall grade for you, Mr. Devin Kozinski, I think a solid B is in order. So B. I think you, again, almost every one of these rosters, that's a great thing about college, is that even if you have a bad draft, there's plenty of time for you to fix your roster as the season goes on, still get yourself into the playoffs. So again, Devin, I think you did a good job, but not a great job, if that makes sense. But we'll go ahead and move on. So with Devin getting a B, we're going to go ahead and move on to Mr. Tommy Harvey, also known as Dynasty Pros Tommy. As you can see, as his Twitter name implies, this guy is a NFL Dynasty analyst. And he just wanted to get involved on the college side of things because I think he just wanted to get better at evaluating prospects. So we're going to go ahead and take a look through this team. Once again, I'm going to take a bit of water here. All right. So the first thing I notice here is the wide receiver room. I definitely will say that this is probably your biggest weakness of your team. Javon Haley is a very good wide receiver. Definitely not somebody I would ever want to rely on as my wide receiver one, though, in my opinion. And in addition, you have Mike Harley, who I think is going to end up being the wide receiver 2 at Miami. And then you have Ajay Hall, who the Alabama depth chart just came out today, and he is going to be he's going to be behind John Mechie. So very unlikely to see the field very often unless he and Mechie are going to be consistently switching, which I hope not, because I have plenty of shares of Mechie. So Ajay Hall, I think, is a pick that you got a little burned on here. Looking behind him at other wide receivers, Joshua Moore could work out of Texas, but again, I'm just not sure that Texas wide receiver room is going to be consistent enough to where Joshua Moore is going to be a week in and week out play. Marcel Barbie, again, playing for a bad team, so plenty of passing opportunities, but scoring opportunities are going to be limited. Again, I think wide receiver room is probably your weakness of your team, so if you want some other guys that I think you could kind of aim for, Jacob Cowing, who just had a great week this past week with UTEP. I don't think that's going to happen every week, but I think it's enough to where you can just kind of hold them onto your roster and just see what happens. Tyler Snead, number 1 wide receiver at East Carolina. Anyway, Milton Wright, wide receiver at Purdue. Number 2 wide receiver at Purdue. Could easily outperform a lot of wide receiver ones at a lot of schools. Jalen Hyatt is going to be possibly the number 1 wide receiver at Tennessee in a Josh Heupel offense. So I think that's somebody you should take a look at. And so, yeah, there's a couple names I would mention there. In addition to that, we'll go back to your team. We'll talk about your quarterbacks next. Rattler and McCall. I think that's a great combo for you. I don't see any reason why for you to really look at quarterback on the waiver wire or anything else for the next good bit. And you kind of understood that yourself because I look here and you didn't take another quarterback until the very final pick in Joe Milton, which again, playing with that Josh Heupel offense, I think it was a great little flyer for you at the end. And honestly, all the more reason for you to pick up Jalen Hyatt out of Tennessee because then maybe you can get that stack going. In addition, let's see what else. Yeah, you did again. Kicker just a little bit too early. Took one in the 13th round against Oklahoma kicker. I get it. You want points. But again, if all they're scoring is touchdowns, you get 1 point per those, and it's again, kickers are a little hard to deal with. In addition, again, you drafted a backup kicker. I kind of mentioned this with exactly college fantasy football. You don't need a backup kicker. Just stream a kicker if you need for 1 week. Nobody's going to really be out there looking to steal your kicker. So, yeah, I see no reason why that you need that second kicker. And again, drop the kicker, pick up Jalen Hyatt. That's all I'm saying. In addition, yes, your running back room. Your running back room, I think, is fantastic. You have picked up Letty Brown and Ulysses Bentley. Those are going to be 2 fantastic guys for you. Zach Evans, I'm a little worrisome about because, again, TCU has never been good about splitting their backs carries. They've never been able to solidify to one guy. So even though Zach Evans is a 5-star running back, I think you're absolutely going to be seeing him split carries with Kendre Miller there. Tyler Goodson, I think, is a great pickup for you after that in the 7th round. Max Borge, again, I'm a little hesitant on him, mostly because, again, he lost a lot of value with the fact that he is they don't really use him as a receiving back anymore. That kind of hurts him. And then LJ Dixon, I think, is somebody else you can kind of drop because, as far as I've heard, he's now running with a 3rd team at Clemson, which is rough. So I think you got a solid top group of running backs and plenty of guys on your bench that you can cut and maybe try to find somebody a little bit better. Again, I'll mention some of the names I said earlier with Charles Williams, Christian Beal-Smith, Chez Malusi, DeAndre Torrey at North Texas. Oscar Attaway just went down with an ACL injury, so Torrey's now up there to pick up plenty of work. And Stephen Carr out of Indiana. He just got named the #1 running back at Indiana, so I see no reason why not to take a little flyer on him rather than the clear #3 running back at Clemson in Lynn J. Dixon. All right. In addition to that, you did grab 2 DSTs relatively late, so I'm not going to knock you there. But again, I probably would have added a little bit more depth at wide receiver before I would have gone for a second DST. Even though I do love the Liberty DST, I think they're going to be a great value this year. Again, I just think priorities were just a little out of order there. Again, you didn't need to grab a second defense. You didn't need to grab a second kicker. I would have rather you've gotten another wide receiver or 2 maybe. So overall, again, I think you got a great team here, or I think you got a good team here. Your running back and your quarterbacks are going to help you in a lot of games. Receivers definitely where you're going to need the most work, so I definitely say we'll be working that waiver wire every single week. Lucky for you, there's plenty of breakout wide receivers every single year in college fantasy. So again, be on the lookout for those and be picking them up off the waiver wire and prioritize those. But overall, I'm going to give you the same grade I just gave Devin. I'm going to give you a solid B. I think you did a very, very good job. And again, if you work that waiver wire well enough, I see no reason why you cannot compete in this league. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next team. And this is John Petry, also known as Avant Gardner on Twitter, as well as Discord. And so we're going to go through his team here, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I'll be honest, John, you did a fantastic job. That's simple as that. You went late round QB strategy, which is not even something I typically do. I typically like to grab at least 1, maybe 2, or I usually like to grab at least 1 high round QB because, again, you know, I like to feel secure in that. I like to know at least one of my guys is going to be a superstar. But you went late round QB, and I think you did it to perfection. 13th round is when you first took your first quarterback. You took Max Johnson out of LSU. People forget that LSU last year, when Miles Brennan was at the helm, the quarterback was averaging 25, 30 points a game. And Max Johnson, when he finally took over again and was a solid quarterback for them, once again, averaging almost 25, 30 points a game. So I think you found yourself a great quarterback here at the end. Clayton Tune, a quarterback with rushing upside in a high-flying Houston offense. I see no reason that he should not work for you. I'm not as sold on Tyler Shuck at Texas Tech, but again, Big 12, softer defenses, maybe I think you could work with him. He'll definitely be more of your streaming QB. I don't think he's going to be your week-to-week guy. Cornelius Brown, the 4th out of Georgia State. I love him. I love the weapons he has to work with. So again, I think you have definitely 3 solid quarterbacks you grabbed here in the 13th, 16th round in Johnson, Tune, and Brown, the 4th. So well done there. And because you did that, you were able to solidify running back so early. You took Tank Bigsby, Lou Nichols, and Jerome Ford as your first 3 picks. And my God, that might be the best running back room in the league. That is an insane running back room. Wide receivers, you did a solid job on Ja'Kerry Roberson, Jahan Dodson, Johan Tyler. Johan Tyler, I'm not as sold on, but again, you got Deshaun Pope 2 rounds later, who could be the #1 wide receiver in the Kent State offense. That's always a valuable position. Eric Ezukanma and Isaiah Hamilton, both high upside guys. If one of your top guys doesn't work for some reason, one of those bottom guys definitely will. Again, like the only knock I could really have here for you is that, like, because you went late QB, you don't have any of those like superstar quarterbacks on your roster. But again, I can't knock you that much because, again, this is fantasy. At the end of the day, you just got to score points, and these guys are going to score points for you. You waited on DST until the 17th round. You picked up Coastal Carolina, a very soft schedule there. And I see no reason why they won't work well for you. I think you did a good job there. And then you waited till the last round to pick up kicker, which, again, good. Well done. So, yeah, there's not a lot for me to say bad about this. Like, again, like the Calvin Turner pick doesn't look as good today as it did a week ago, but I'm not going to knock you for that. Or I'm not going to knock you too much for that. Even still, even if you don't have Calvin Turner, you're solid at both running back and wide receiver, so there's no reason really to fret over that, in my opinion. So, Yeah, well done, John. I'm just gonna give you the first. I gave Brandon Cherry an A- earlier, but you're gonna get our first A of the day. So well done, John. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next team, and this is Mr. Kevin Whalen. This is gonna be another one I'm gonna kind of run through pretty quickly. First of all, Sincere McCormick, one of the best backs for this upcoming year. Got him at the 10th spot. Well done, sir. And on the way back, you picked up Dustin Crum. I love Dustin Crum. I'm a big fan of him, but as people know with Dustin Crum, if you're going to pick him up, you have to pick up quarterbacks with very easy early season schedules in order to balance out Dustin Crum, who has a very rough start to the season with Iowa, Maryland, and Texas A&M. So, who did you go and pick up? Well, you got Tanner Mordecai. You got Phil Jerkovich. These are QBs that are going to be facing teams like UMass, Abilene Christian, North Texas. These are like soft schedules to begin the year. So you're going to be just fine at quarterback, even if you have to bench Dustin Crum those first couple weeks. So well done there, sir. You've clearly done your research there. You got a nice 3-sack at RB in Sincere McCormick, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Dwayne McBride. I think you're going to be eating a ton there with that. You waited till the third to last round to grab a defense. You grabbed Notre Dame's defense, which is one of my favorite defenses to grab this upcoming year. And then you waited till the last round to grab kicker. You clearly grabbed oh my goodness. Speak, Jerry, speak. You clearly grabbed a guy that you like, Chad Ryland, kicker out of Eastern Michigan. So yeah, again, I think you did a very good job here. Almost all your guys on your bench are people that I would consider at least great dart throws with Wandale Robinson, Terrian Stewart, Xander Horvath, Khalil Pimpleton. I think those are all great values for you. Wide receiver overall, Drake London, Corey Rucker, Jordan Addison, and Jareth Stearns are going to be a solid receiving group for you this upcoming year, like a starting receiving group. So yeah, I think you did well done, man. And again, there's not a lot for me to knock here, except for the fact that maybe you took a kicker, you took an Eastern Michigan kicker. I've never seen somebody do that before, but I can't knock you too much. So once again, just like with John, I'm going to give Kevin our second A of the day. Kevin, well done. I think you did a great job, man. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next team. And I don't actually know this guy's full name. All I know him as on Twitter is just Mags. So we're going to go through Mags' team here after I take some water. Much better. All right, Mags. So you also took the late round QB approach. You did not take a quarterback until the 10th round. And I'll be honest, I don't think you were quite as successful as John that we just went through a second ago. You took Shavon Cordero in the 10th round. Again, I don't entirely blame you. I personally was just kind of off the Hawaii quarterback. I wasn't sure that he was going to actually add much value outside of Calvin Turner. So I would rather just grab Calvin Turner because I thought Calvin Turner would be kind of the keystone of that offense. But regardless, Cordero is also just not a pick that doesn't look as good as it did a week ago. But again, I can't knock you too much for that. You also grab KJ Jefferson, Jaden DeLora. I think those are both good quarterbacks who could easily have some good upside for you. But they're not quite as great as Max Johnson or Clayton Tune and Cornelius Brown that John Petry did with his draft. But again, these are both solid guys that you can easily take over. And also, again, as the season goes on, there are going to be breakout quarterbacks. There are going to be breakout guys that come out of nowhere. So you got to be working that waiver wire. I haven't really mentioned any of the quarterbacks that I would recommend people taking off the board yet. Actually, no, I did, but I'll go through them again here. Hudson Card out of Texas. That's going to be a huge one. If you can lock down who that Texas quarterback is, that's going to be a absolute steal for you right now. Talia Tagovailoa, I think, is another good one out of Maryland. Jack Plummer. That's a Purdue offense that's going to be throwing the ball some more. So I think you could absolutely pick him up now that he's solidified that quarterback one there. Anthony Brown's going to be picked up on a Oregon team that I think is going to be very good this year, going to be scoring a lot of points. So I see no reason why you shouldn't try to grab a guy who has some rushing upside in an offense like that. So yeah, those are a couple guys who I think you can maybe throw some flyers on, especially if Cordero continues to not work out. As for tight end, you took Michael Mayer in the 6th round, which I think was a little too early. I think he might have taken the first tight end off the board. Again, I just think it's a little too early. Especially since Cole Turner was there. Like, if you're going to take a tight end this early, you might as well go for Cole Turner. But again, Michael Mayer is not the worst tight end in the world. And actually, I like him a lot. I have a lot of shares of him. Again, I just think you took him a little too early. But that's fine. Again, first year. I can't knock you a ton. Let's see, anything else here? Oh my God, your running backs. I like your running backs a lot. You got a lot of high volume guys here in Austin Jones, Chris Rodriguez, George Holani. These are going to be there's one other, Brian Koback. That's what I was missing. I'm like, there's one more here. Those guys are going to provide you a nice safe floor every single week. So if your opponent has a lot of guys that kind of bust that week, I think you have a very good shot at winning every single one of those weeks, because you just have a bunch of running backs that are going to provide you at least 15 points a week. And I think you have no problem getting past that. In addition, your wide receivers are insane, dude. You went for the David Bell, Kayshon Boutte stack at the turn, and I think you did it very well. You did that very well, as opposed to somebody else who takes David Bell, Kayshon Boutte at the turn. You did very well. And then you got Travell Harris in the 7th round. Those are 3 insane wide receivers that you will be starting every single week, and I see no reason why you will win that matchup with another team almost 9 times out of 10. So I think your running backs and your wide receivers are going to take you very, very far in this league. But again, the quarterbacks are less than impressive in my opinion. So I'm going to go ahead and give you an overall grade of B+. Again, very, very good team you got here, especially with the running backs and the wide receivers. No reason why. Those are going to be the reasons why you're going to be kept in every single game, every single week. And then quarterbacks, if you go off for a good week, you're going to have a very, very good time. And I see, especially if you can get that quarterback situation figured out, I think you're going to have a great, great shot at winning this league overall. But not good. I think you're going to have a good time. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next team. And that is going to be Onur McNally and his team, the U. So, first things first, quarterbacks here are great. You got Matt Corral in the 1st round, one of the few first-round quarterbacks that I'm willing to consider. So I think you did well there. In addition to that, you have Brennan Armstrong in the 4th round. I think those two, with their high rushing upsides, are going to provide you a base floor of probably 50 to 60 points just between the two of them every single week. So I think well done there. You stacked up on receiver very early on. You got Khalil Shakir and Traylon Burks. I think you did well there. Overall, your receiving is great because you got, let's see, you got, Khalil Shakir, Traylon Burks. You grabbed Sam Pinckney in the 8th, or not 8th, you picked him up in the 9th round. So I think you got a solid floor there. I think your receivers are great. The big question mark for me are your running backs, because you got Draylen Berger, who is now the RB2 at Wisconsin, which could change with injuries and stuff like that. I think Ty Chandler is probably your best running back on this team easily. But you also did manage to then go on an absolute tear at running back, because I think you recognized early on that your running backs were weak or relative to other people's. And so you went on a tear of just, let's see, you grabbed overall in this draft, you grabbed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 running backs. 8 running backs on this team. Two of them are in your flex, 2 of them are starting, and then you got 4 more on your bench. You just went on a tear of just high upside guys. Gabe Irwin at Nebraska. Brandon Thomas, who's expected to be the RB1 at Memphis. Mayan Williams, who's at least to start the season will be the RB1 at Ohio State. Kenneth Walker, RB1 at Michigan State. You just went with a lot of high upside guys, and I don't blame you at all. Again, I think it was a good strategy for you to do on the latter end of this draft. There's a lot of value there at running back, so I think you did a great job trying to just find some people that, even though it's not solidified that they'll provide you that RB1, RB2 performance, they could. And thus, you could easily be getting a lot of these guys who are going to be week-to-week starters for you much later in the draft. So I think you did a great job there. Next things next, you got a couple of auto picks here that I think kind of hurt you a lot. Again, Wake Forest defense in the 10th round. Ouch. Kicker from Southern Miss in the 13th round. Ouch. Not sure what happened there. I'm not sure why Fantrax gave you those picks. But regardless, yeah, I definitely say go get a better defense than Wake Forest's defense, because I don't think it's going to help you out very much. There's a couple still on the board, or definitely a bunch still on the waiver wire that I think you can pick up very quickly. Yeah, overall, if you had to drop one person, I'd say go ahead and drop Gabe Irwin. Just from what we saw last week against Illinois, he's definitely the starter at Nebraska, but also that offense is not good. And he's going to be struggling behind that offensive line. He's going to be struggling with that offense to just score, especially with Adrian Martinez there to siphon away any rushing touchdowns he might have. So, yeah, I think Gabe Irwin would be a much better dynasty or keeper play. But for now, I think you can drop him for this year. Yeah, but again, overall, I think you did a great job. Quarterback and wide receiver are definitely your best attributes about this team. Running back, again, Ty Chandler, I think, is your best running back on this team. But other than that, you have a bunch of guys here listed that are like, somebody has to work out of these guys. Like, if it doesn't, like, you're just out of luck, man. So I think you did enough to compensate for your weak start at running back overall. So I think an overall grade for you is a perfectly fair B+. Because again, it's not a perfect team by any measure, but I do think you did a lot to try to compensate for a weakness early that you identified early on. I think there's plenty of guys here that you could work with here. So yeah, overall, Onur, B+. Well done, sir. All right, so we'll go ahead and move on to the next team, and then this is Mr. Ryan Ralph. So the first thing I noticed about this team is rushing quarterbacks galore. You have Mr. Dylan Gabriel out of UCF. You have Dorian Thompson-Robinson out of UCLA. You have Emory Jones out of Florida, and you have Malik Cunningham out of Louisville. These are all going to be guys that are absolutely going to be doing wonders for you in terms of just helping you establish a safe floor for them every single week, because they aren't going to be losing points based on sacks like other quarterbacks, like on Brandon Cherry's team, where you have a bunch of pocket passers. If they get sacked, they lose quite a bit of points. So these guys are going to help compensate for that. So I think you're done a great job there. In addition, these are going to be more likely to grab these rushing touchdowns. So I think you got a very nice safe floor with these guys every single week. Your first round pick was Mohammed Abraham at the 8th pick, which, well done, sir. That is a fantastic pick, in my opinion, at the first round. The big weakness I kind of identified on your team pretty early on was wide receiver. And that's not that you went for guys that I wouldn't typically see go in these ranges. It's just a lot of guys that I have a little bit of tempered expectations for. I think Reggie Roberson's your best wide receiver on the team. I think he's going to do great. Although Danny Gray and Rashee Rice concern me just a little bit as well. In addition to that, him coming back from the ACL injury, it's hard to tell how these guys look after that. Reports that I can't say he looks great. I'll believe it when I see it. Romeo Doubs, I just don't think Romeo Doubs is the number one wide receiver on Nevada this year. You got Elijah Cooks coming back. You got Torrey Horton, a young guy coming in. Marquise Spiker. Hell, Colt Herter's going to be taking plenty of targets. So I just don't think Doubs is worth his value that he's been getting at in the 4th and 5th round. So I think I'm a little worrisome there. Jair Shorter, I think you could easily become your number 2 wide receiver on this team, especially if he does become that number 1 wide receiver at North Texas. There is no reason why he wouldn't do well for you. So, but even so, overall, I think your wide receiver room is just a little bit weak compared to your running back and your quarterback situation. A couple guys I can identify here very early as people you could drop. First of all, Elijah Canyon was not even on the Auburn depth chart today when it was released, so get him out of here. In addition to that, Jaden Hazelwood, I appreciate the flyer on him. I just don't think he's going to do well enough for Oklahoma this year for you to be worth keeping him around in your roster. So I say he's kind of another drop. Although if you really feel strong about it, fine, keep him. I see no reason why not. In addition, I just want to point out your Zach Charbonnet pick looks a whole lot better than it does a week ago. So congrats to there. And so, yeah, I'd say probably the big thing for you is on the waiver wire, just look for breakout wide receivers after week 1. And again, make sure that these guys are set up for situations down the road. Make sure you're looking for high target guys, high reception guys that kind of broke out on week 1. So I think that's what you should be looking for after this. But overall, again, solid roster. I think you are plenty in position to do well in this league. And so, but overall, I'd say I give your roster a solid just B. All right, so we're going to move on to the 12th and final team, and that is Mr. Taylor Bick, who I actually had the pleasure of meeting at the Fantasy Expo. Great guy. While we were there, I offered him, because he said he was kind of interested in college this year, and I said, well, I am starting these Redshirt Leagues. Is that'd be something you'd be interested in? He was like, heck yeah. So here he is. I'll go ahead and talk about his team here. So Taylor won the Malik Willis sweepstakes. He got the #1 overall pick, and he got Malik Willis, so that's going to help out his team a lot just right there. In addition to that, he grabbed, for the rest of his quarterbacks, he grabbed Keaton Slovis in the 4th round, which is much earlier than I would be willing to consider. But that's really kind of one of the main things that I would knock him on in this. So Keaton Slovis going a little bit early. He did pick up Max Duggan, which I do like as a rushing quarterback, and I do think can absolutely be a top 24 quarterback for you, top 24 quarterback this year. So I like him in the 11th round. He also stacked him with Quentin Johnson, so well done there, sir. We'll go ahead and talk about running backs. Ronnie Rivers and Deuce Vaughn, I think, is a good combo, especially for half-point PPR. I think you'll get plenty of value out of those two. Your wide receivers, Jalen Tolbert, Justin Hall, and Braylon Sanders, are a formidable receiving group. Braylon Sanders I'm a little bit more worried about, again, because I'm just hearing a lot of the ball being spread around at Ole Miss. Even regardless, Quentin Johnson, Zachary Franklin, Jack Sorensen are all going to be guys that are going to be people that you could easily plug into that starting lineup if Braylon Sanders doesn't work out, so well done there. Tight ends, who'd you take a tight end? You got Brant Kuth and you got Jelani Woods. Again, 2 tight ends I like, so well done there. And then I'd just say you took your defense just a little bit too early, especially Penn State. I'm not quite sold on their defense this upcoming year, especially to take them that early. But you did wait till the last round to take your kicker, so well done. So yeah, overall, I'd say I give this roster, if I'm looking at it correctly, I'd say I give it... See, I was about to give it a B+, but like the more and more I look at it, like if Max Duggan works out well for you, I absolutely think that you just have a solid lineup here, because I forgot to look at the flexes here, and Tyrese Ritchie and Devontae Price are going to be 2 solid a solid wide receiver and a solid running back for you that can provide you safe floors. So yeah, I'm gonna give you an A-. I'm gonna give you an A-. I'm liking this team the more and more I look at it. So yeah, well done, Taylor. All right, so that's my run through of everybody's team. So guys, every single one of y'all, well done. Y'all are all in a position to where you can easily win this league if you pay attention and continue to work that waiver wire every single week for looking for guys in your roster that are not performing well, making sure you go and get guys off the waiver wire who are performing well. A lot of you guys have been in fantasy before. You guys know how this works. But that's one of the great things about college fantasy, is that even if you have a rough draft, there's no reason why you can't work that waiver wire to build yourself up. I remember my first league, I started off 0-4. No, I started off 1-4. Started off 1-4, and I worked the waiver wire because I would have that #1 pick in the waiver wire every single week. I worked that waiver wire, and by the end of it, I was #1 in the league with a record of 7-4, I believe it was. It was a rough time. We were eating each other alive. But regardless, I ripped off 6 straight after that point. So I'm just telling all of y'all, you got even if things aren't going well for you, do not give up on the league. Do not give up on any of your leagues that you might get into this year. You guys all clearly have enough savvy to you to where you know how to work fantasy. I think this is going to be a fantastic year for all of y'all, and I look forward to all of y'all I look forward to having all of y'all in this league. And again, if y'all have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I told y'all in the chat, and I'll say it again, there are no stupid questions, only stupid answers. And since I'm the one giving answers, I'm the only one who can sound stupid. So again, thank you guys all for listening to this podcast, and thank you guys for listening to me talk through all these rosters. Even if you're not in this league, I hope you got some interesting tidbits that you might not have known about beforehand, some little maybe some tidbits you didn't know about beforehand, maybe some strategy you hadn't quite considered yet for college fantasy. Again, that's part of the whole reason why I'm even doing this. So all of y'all, please make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow myself on Twitter at CFF_Jared. Make sure you follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Those are the two main platforms where we list our podcasts. But other than that, y'all have a fantastic day. And the season's right around the corner, y'all. So get ready for loads and loads of content.